Yes.
Great. All right. I now call the meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. Welcome to ANC 1E's June General Body Meeting. A few administrative notes. Today's meeting is being recorded. Closed caption is available for each user by clicking the button on the toolbar below. Please submit questions throughout the Q&A function, also located on the toolbar below. Commissioners will be keeping an eye on the Q&A throughout the evening. If you're calling in rather than participating through the web, you may raise your hand by dialing *9. The secretary is unable to be here tonight, so I will conduct the roll call. Commissioner Gallagher.
Present.
Great. Commissioner Lancaster.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Ray.
Present.
Commissioner Brown. Commissioner Brown is not here with us.
Oh, Commissioner Brown is in the waiting room. Hold on, I'll bring her up.
Oh, great. Hi, Commissioner Brown. We are just doing a roll call, and I just called your name. So, Commissioner Brown.
Present. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Newland.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Jacobson, not able to join us tonight. And Commissioner Footer, that is me, and I am present. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. With 6 out of 7 commissioners present, we have a quorum. All right. Per DC law, the ANC 1E meeting was noticed to the community via listserv, social media, website, and e-calendar. Moving to the agenda, tonight we will consider the consent agenda, which only has one item on here, which is the approval of the May minutes. Then we'll go to the community announcements and presentations. We have 2 special guests. And then we will go to our regular guests from the mayor's office and Councilmember Nadeau's office. Then we'll do commissioners and then the public. Then we have no official resolutions for this evening under consideration, but we will go through each of the committees and hear updates from activities from the past month. Are there any amendments or additions to the agenda? All right, hearing and seeing none, I will accept a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion with unanimous consent that we accept the agenda as written.
Is there any dissent? Hearing none, the motion passes and the agenda is approved. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Just a reminder, all matters listed under consent are considered by the commission to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. Any commissioner may, however, remove an item from the consent agenda by request. As mentioned before, the only item under our consent agenda is the approval of the May meeting minutes. Would anybody like to move the meeting minutes out of consent agenda for further discussion? Or are there any additions to the consent agenda? Hearing and seeing none, I'll now accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda with unanimous consent.
Thank you. Is there any dissent? Hearing none, motion passes and the consent agenda is adopted. All right, moving along now to community announcements. We will, excuse me, we have 2 special guests with us tonight. First, we'll hear from Sean Moore with DC Water to talk through Lead-Free DC initiative. Then we'll hear from the DC Shadow Representative, Dr. I apologize, I'm going to say this very incorrectly, Oyoliwa. And then we will go to commissioners and then the public. Just as a reminder, commissioners and members of the community can use this time to make public announcements, distribute information, or alert the community about issues. Each of our presenters, our two special guests, will have 5 minutes, and then we will go to questions from commissioners and the public. And then if commissioners and members of the public have any announcements, they'll have 3 minutes, and we will go from there. So with that, if we can pull up Don Moore with DC Water.
He's up.
Great. Mr. Moore, welcome. You have 5 minutes, and I will present I'll pull up your presentation.
Perfect.
Can you see?
I can see it.
Great.
All right. I didn't know if you wanted to put it in presentation view.
I don't have it as just a PDF. So if you just go ahead and you just start talking.
All right, will do. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sean Moore. I'm with DC Water's Lead-Free DC program. It's my pleasure to be able to join you this evening to give you an update on our Lead-Free DC initiative. Next. So first, what is Lead-Free DC? Lead-Free DC is DC Water's plan to eliminate all lead service lines from the district. And we are doing that in 2 ways. First, we're replacing all known lead service lines. And the second thing we're doing is we're verifying the material of all those service lines that we don't know what material is. And if those need to be replaced, then we will replace those. Next. So program highlights. So we've done about 5,700 replacements to date. We are definitely aligned with the Biden-Harris Justice 40 initiative. So we're focused on prioritizing replacements in areas of vulnerable populations and high number of lead service lines. And we're also working with DOES in partnership to do a community engagement program for trainees. We had 17 trainees who completed our program last year. 14 of those trainees got full-time jobs, and we're about to have our next cohort of 12 trainees. And so hopefully all 12 of those will be able to have full-time jobs once they finish our program. Next. So we've made some great progress towards our goals, but there's a lot of challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. When we first started this program, we believed there were about 28,000 lead service lines. After doing some additional research, going through our records, we figured out, well, this is actually 42,000 service lines. So while the number has changed, the mission stays the same, but we won't reach our original 2030 goal, but we certainly are pushing as fast as we can and definitely moving towards, like I said earlier, the vulnerable populations. And we're continuing to look for funding so that we can accelerate the program. Next. And one thing of note is that the EPA has some new proposals to the lead and copper rule, which governs lead. And if those changes go into effect, all the lead service lines would have to be changed by 2037. So and that's not far away. So we're definitely working to do it earlier than that, but we know we're on track. Next. So why are we doing this? Well, first of all, we know that there's no safe level of lead. Lead's a powerful neurotoxin, which means exposure to lead can cause serious health effects, even death. So everyone is really susceptible to lead, but the folks who are the most susceptible, of course, are pregnant women and children. Next slide. So for pregnant women, for infants and children, basically you have decreases in IQ and attention span, learning and behavioral problems, new or exacerbating existing problems. The children of women who are exposed to lead also can have increased risk of adverse health effects. And for us adults, kidney disease, high blood pressure, nervous system problems, and heart disease. And this next slide just kind of gives you an idea and shows you that lead impacts every part of the body. And it's just a little infographic just to show you that, you know, there's negative health impacts of lead everywhere. So if you go to our next one. So what we're doing is DC Water is replacing the water service line. And that's the line that goes from the water main in the street into your home or your whatever building that you live in. So DC Water is responsible for maintaining the portion that's in the public space, which is, of course, the public side, but the homeowner is responsible for the work that's done on the private side. So that means any work that's done on private property is the responsibility of the homeowner and should be at the cost of the homeowner. But with Lead-Free DC, we have special money which allows us to do that work for free. Next slide. So different pipe materials. So we're really focused on lead and galvanized pipes because they both contain lead. If you go to the next slide, I really want to show you that this is a lead pipe. So if you see this type of pipe in your basement or area, you have a lead pipe. It's a white oxidation. You'll always see this telltale bulb just before the joint. And if you see that, you know, that's pretty much a guarantee that you have lead pipes. Next. We're also replacing galvanized iron pipes. They can, you know, over time, they can trap lead particles or other particles that are in the water. Plus, you get reduced water pressure as that tuberculation fills the pipe, AKA gunk in the pipe. So, you know, because of that reason, we're also replacing galvanized pipes. Next. So we have some tools for homeowners to help you understand if you have a lead service line. We have a lead map, as well as a construction database. And you'll see the links there, but both of them are available at dcwater.com/lead. Next slide. So what is Lead-Free DC and what are we doing? So Lead-Free DC is actually 3 different programs. The first program, the one I'm talking about today, is part of our capital improvements program, and that's a DC Water initiated program. So whenever we do these buy-block programs, there are capital improvements, so that means it's free to the homeowner. We also have 2 other programs. We have our lead pipe replacement assistance program for homes where it's only a private side lead service line. So DC Water has already replaced the public. You're able to get your service line there replaced. And actually right now we have 100% discount because we have special funding. So we do that in partnership with DOEE. And then we have a voluntary full replacement program where if you don't want to wait for DC Water to come to your block, you can go ahead and initiate that yourself. DC Water will pay for all the costs on the public side, plus all the mobilization and other costs to make it a cost-effective way if you choose to move forward with the voluntary program. Next. So I talked about Justice 40 a few minutes ago, but basically what that means is we use a data model, a prioritization model to figure out what homes should get their lead service line replaced first as a part of the buy block program. So some of the things that go into that data model, we look at service line material, race, household income, presence of children under 5, and blood level indicators. And the blocks with the highest scores are the ones that are prioritized before blocks with lower scores. And we choose new blocks every year to participate in the program. Next slide. So this just kind of gives you a couple of photos of what happens in a buy block replacement. We will dig a hole at the water main in the street. We'll dig one at the water meter and one at the property line. We will have to go inside to, you know, of course, to tie in the new water service line to your existing plumbing. And everything that we do, you know, we will provide restoration in kind so that, you know, we want to leave it as good or better than we found it. Next. So where are we in 1E? So in this year's program, we have 17 blocks that have been chosen for the Lead-Free DC and ANC 1E. That means there's about 300 homes that need to sign the authorization. The anticipated construction period for this is 2024 to 2026. And residents have to give DC Water permission to replace those service lines. Now, this is the list that I have right now, but we're adding additional blocks, and of course the new fiscal year is right around the corner, so we'll have a new set of blocks to add to this coming up pretty soon. Next. So we're here because we need your help. Basically, we would like you actually to encourage folks who are eligible to participate in this program to sign up. That's our right of entry agreement you see on the left side of the screen. Folks need to sign that agreement and return it to us so that they can, so we can be authorized to go on their property and replace their service line for free. It's a citywide program. We do have folks who are out doing door to door, as well as we're doing calls and mailers. So please be on the lookout for that, especially if you're on one of those blocks that we showed you earlier. Next. So all the information I talked about today, you can find on dcwater.com/lead, the lead map, the construction dashboard. All of that information is available there for you. And we also have a lead hotline that you can call. And it'll show up on the next page. But it is a way for you to figure out if you have a lead service line, what your options are for replacement, and what DC Water is doing as a part of the Lead-Free DC program. Next. Commissioner?
Oh,
Hello?
Oh, are you there?
Am I back? Am I back? I'm sorry.
yeah.
I think I paused for a minute. I apologize. My internet is not great.
Just my last slide, if you just go to the next one. This is contact information. We do have a survey. If you so choose, it would be really helpful if you would scan that QR code and complete our survey. Also, if you have questions, we have our lead hotline right here, the 787-4044, or lead@dcwater.com. And my number is right there, the 787-4049 number, and me, Sean.moore@dcwater.com. And that's my presentation for today. I thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer those.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, questions? Commissioner Brown.
Hi, Sean. Thank you so much. What are your timelines for the 700 block of Columbia and Georgia Avenue projects?
So right now, I actually could look it up on the construction dashboard to see where we are with that. I'm not sure, based on the permits and that whole process, where we are with that one. But we can certainly look and see where we are. Let me make a note where if you want to drop me an email, then I can do a little research for you and find out.
Thank you. And then when will you be starting outreach prior to the construction period?
So typically the outreach is done pretty far in advance, especially now that these construction packages have gotten so large. We have, thousands of homes now that we're trying to work to get to. So it's probably a year, 6 months to a year before we'll get to you after you sign an agreement. It could be a little longer. It just depends, like I said, on the contractors, the permits, and all those things have to align for us to move forward on a block.
Yeah. And then recognizing that you're off your timeline already, when do you anticipate sending notices out to neighbors before construction starts? What is that time period? Like, do they have 30 days or 60 days?
Typically, within 60 days, they should get a notice for construction. They should get another notice, within 30 days to 2 weeks before construction. And for those people who are getting their service lines replaced within 2 weeks of construction, actually, they're going to get a call to schedule their service line replacement. And then that'll happen about 2 to 3 weeks at least before their service line replacement is. And so they'll be in contact with DC Water during that time period, and we'll provide them with all the details that they need to be ready for their replacement. We have a publication, our little blue book, that we give to homeowners who are pending having their service line replaced. So all that typically happens in that last, 2 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks before a service line replacement.
Yeah. And just, during the time of outreach, and just I'm learning a lot from the pilot project that happened, and particularly the delays that took place on Luray Street. I think that's like the 400 block of Luray Street. you know, there was a lot of delays because people didn't understand the project, they didn't sign, you know, while the line, you know, the lines were open, they were just waiting on people to get signatures. So the early you can do, you know, outreach, the better. 2 weeks is really not you know, for notice isn't like a great time. Some people travel and aren't at home. And then of course you have homes that are unoccupied and owners need to be notified. So
Yeah. So that
yeah.
note, just clarification, that notice is just saying, hey, we're coming. But people, we will have, you know, 6 months, 12 months in advance have been asking people to sign up to participate in the program. That's just the notification, you know, and that last, you know, 30 to 6 days that we're going to say, hey, we're coming. And for all those people who have signed up, they will know that we're coming because we call to schedule an appointment to do their replacement. So yeah, so everyone will know in advance to when their replacement is going to be, and you know when the we'll start construction on that block.
Okay.
Can I just clarify? So you guys are with the buy block program is based using this kind of visual is
Yes.
the center street, which the city is responsible for. So
Right.
why do you need for homeowners to sign? Not that I disagree with it, but why, if it's the city property and it's expected the city would maintain it, why do you need the residents to sign authorization?
So with the buy block program and the benefit of what we're doing, if we replace the service line on the private property, then we require the homeowner's approval and permission in order to do that work. So we're providing a free replacement to the homeowner on their private property. And because of that, we need them to sign up for the, you know, to allow us to do that. And do know that a replacement, you know, could be a value of $5,000 to $10,000 or more, depending on the house. So it's, you know, it's a big investment on DC Water that we're giving to our homeowners to replace their private side water service line. So, you know, we so that's why we're talking, because we want people to understand, hey, this is a great opportunity for you to do this and to replace that service line for free.
Great. Commissioners, other questions?
Yeah, this is just my last, really it's a request. Can you, you know, send these slides, but also any materials that you've sent out to neighbors? I'd love to follow up with the 700 block and see if, you know, they received anything. And we have just some vacant homes with owners, and I, you know, would love for them to have the opportunity to sign up.
Perfect. And I did send the slides out. So you commissioners, you have these slides. And, you know, if whatever materials, if you do send me that email, it'd just be helpful. Then I can reply to it with copies of the brochure and the other information that we send out, so you can have that for residents.
Great. Any other questions from commissioners? Right, seeing none. Members of the community, if you have questions for Sean, DC Water, please feel free to raise your hand. Again, if you are joining us by phone rather than online, you can raise your hand by dialing *9. All right, seeing none. Sean, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. It has been a pleasure to speak with you all. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. And you know, you have my email and my contact information, and I will gladly reply to you with whatever you need.
Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you.
All right. Next on our agenda, and I won't pull up our agenda because we don't have a presentation, so we'll be able to just see each other's faces. And I have to apologize profusely. Doctor, I have been practicing your name all day. just because I want to make sure that I got it right. And of course, I butchered it. So could you please educate me? Please say your last name.
No worries, brother. My name is Dr. Oye Owolewa.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And the floor is yours. You have 5 minutes.
Absolutely. First of all, I want to thank you, Chairman Footer, for inviting me and the ANC 1E family for allowing me to be here. My name is Dr. Oye Owolewa. I'm a pharmacist. I'm a former ANC commissioner. I'm the current U.S. representative where we fight for DC statehood. I'm proud to say in the previous Congress, we passed DC Statehood Emissions Act, but in the current Republican-controlled Congress, that's not necessarily the priority. However, with the recent attacks on home rule, whether it's Congress shutting down some of our bills or current Republican nominee Donald Trump promising to repeal home rule, me and my team have gone to a couple of congressional offices and talked about the need to protect home. We had one Senate Republican office as well as two House Democratic offices, both aligned, saying that they have no interest in repealing home rule and they don't want to govern DC, and we don't want Congress governing us. So that is a step in the right direction. And we're going to continue to go to seek different offices of both sides, whether Republican or Democrat, and see their stances on home rule and making sure that we're able to continue to elect a mayor, to have council pass laws, and also have ANCs represent our values. In addition, there's another matter that pertains to local DC public health that I've really been paying attention to. As I mentioned before, I'm a pharmacist. I've been a pharmacist for 10 years, and much of my focus has been on decreasing prescription drug abuse and misuse. So I can go through the numbers of over 500 people in 2023 dying from opioid-related or prescription-related deaths. That's twice the amount of, that's 2 times more than murders, as well as 53 of them dying from prescription overdoses. That's like once a week. And I can go through numbers like 80% of people on heroin start off taking prescription opioids, or that the majority of prescriptions that are misused come from the cabinet, not from pharmacies, not from the streets, but from unused medications in drug cabinets. So for the past 7 years, I've advocated for having drug take-back bins that kind of look like mailboxes to be put in pharmacies. And we started to see some of those, but not nearly enough. So today, my team and I went to the Committee of Health, discussed the need to have universal drug take-back bins. I mean, in every pharmacy, every hospital, every urgent care, as well as fire stations and police stations, first responders, and any healthcare facilities. Right now, in this great city, there are absolutely no drug take-back bins in Ward 1. And just think about how many grandparents there are, how many folks have changed medications, how many people have teenage kids who don't have the ability to turn in their unused medications. So we had a great conversation at the Department of Health, Christine Henderson's office. And our step is to go to the DC Department of Health to change policy to see if we can mandate drug take-back bins in every pharmacy, healthcare facility, and first responders. That's what my team's been working on. We believe it's very possible. There is some funding, hopefully, that's coming in through fiscal year 2025. There's also an opioid abatement fund that we received based off the class action lawsuits that went after pharmacies and drug manufacturers that contributed to the opioid crisis. So there is some funding. I do believe this is something that can help protect lives in DC and keep people from being addicted to certain medications. And I also believe that this is something that hopefully ANC commissioners can get involved with. So hopefully in the near future, I can come back and ask for a letter of support. But I definitely wanted to bring up those topics because that's something we've been working on, both fighting for home rule as well as trying to protect our public health by instituting drug take-back bins in every single healthcare facility and making sure that people of all 8 wards have a way of ridding their houses of unused medications and expired medications as well. So that's my presentation. Thank you for allowing me to be here quickly, and I'm willing to take any questions or any feedback.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions?
Actually, sorry, I have one. So thanks again for joining us. For those who probably are not maybe as familiar with your position, could you maybe explain just a little bit about, the role that you fill and, its involvement in the statehood process?
Yes, thank you for that question. I always forget to talk about that because it's obvious to me, but not to everybody else. So yes, I'm the U.S. representative Washington, D.C., but because D.C. is not a state, I don't have a congressional seat. So our warrior on the Hill, our delegate, Eleanor Holmes Norton, our congresswoman, she has a congressional office and congressional staff. My office is in the Wilson building. So I work in the same building as the council and the mayor and whatnot. And we don't have a congressional staff. I have interns, I have friends, I have folks who lean in an organization that help us do what we do. In this role, we've done expungement clinics, we've helped public health initiatives, we've gone to classrooms to talk to people about careers, as well as brought federal resources to teach local business owners on how to access grants, certifications, and contracts and whatnot. But the difference between my role and the congresswoman is that I'm outside of Congress, often called the shadow. And obviously she's on the Hill. Neither of us have congressional votes, but she's able to sit in committee and introduce legislation.
Thank you.
Thanks for that question.
Commissioners, other questions? I guess I have a couple of questions. There are a number of initiatives that are going on in order to try to promote DC statehood. How do you involve yourself in those, and how are you actually taking this to a national level? If I understand it correctly, your sole role is to make sure that we are promoting DC statehood, and we got a very large hill ahead of us. Your role is also voluntary, which I greatly appreciate, as we all are too. So I guess it's a couple of fold. With opportunity costs being at hand, how are you determining what's the best use of your time and how you're going to promote national level awareness on making sure statehood comes to fruition?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in this role, what I've tried to do is increase the amount of DC statehood champions, as well as awareness for DC statehood. So we've gone to other states, introduced DC statehood resolutions, so we can have those state level legislators have their stand on DC statehood. Because we know today's state legislators are tomorrow's congressional candidates. For example, Jasmine Crockett, I've known her since she was a state representative, and her fight and her champion DC statehood carried her into Congress, so now she's a real big supporter on the Hill. Furthermore, we've done exciting things in the districts, because not just about speeches and long hearings that get people interested in DC statehood. We're actually take part in parades. We bring our nice cars and put DC statehood facts on them, so folks who can be reached in different ways. So we try to find ways, whether it's in media, whether it's legislatively, or even just try to find engaging opportunities to get people interested in knowing about our fight for DC statehood. And also, we let that also drive some of the work that we do. For example, our expungement clinics, where we help returning citizens learn how to clear their records, learn how to get second chance employment opportunities. We tell them how the fact that they live and have offenses in DC impact their expungement process compared to their neighbors in Maryland or Virginia. So we're reaching those who otherwise may not even care about statehood, who may not even vote, to understand how their lives are impacted by not living in the state. So we try to not only talk about it, but walk it too, and bring initiatives that not only increase the awareness of DC statehood, but also make people really care about it as well.
And how do you coordinate with all the other initiatives?
We join in. I was part of the Hands Off DC protest. I actually got arrested, which I typically don't want to brag about, but we really try to make sure we lean in on all the organizations with League of Women Voters, even in the non-citizen voting community, just let them know that, especially folks who live in DC that are not originally from the district, reach out to their friends and who they grew up with, contact their voting representation as well, to make sure that they know that people all across this country care about DC statehood.
And when you're meeting with state legislators, what's your message to them? Why is it important to them?
Yeah, my message to them is not only to state level legislators, but also people who live in other states who otherwise may not know what's going on in DC. I actually talk to them about things that they care about, whether it's the environment, whether it's about criminal justice, whether it's about reproductive rights, whether it's about LGBTQ+ rights, and talk about how voting representation from DC can help them get closer to the nation and the society that they want to live in, especially if they live in Republican states and some of their voting representation goes against their best interests. So, and then on top of that, we've loved to talk to state legislators who live outside the district about how we support those who support us, whether it's volunteering, whether it's other types of support, just letting them know that we in DC we care and we're interested in supporting those who champion our rights.
What do you think is one of the pain points of trying to get people to actually take this seriously and actually promote DC becoming a state? And not just the fact that it's a Republican held Congress, because we've had times where there have been democratically controlled Congresses and we had the White House. What do you see as one of the pain points for actually making this come to fruition?
I couldn't hear your question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay, gotcha. So I think your question is about how to engage folks. I think there's a DC side of this.
I'll repeat it for you real quick. I said, what do you think are one of the pain points?
I can't. For some reason, I can't hear you. I'm not sure if something's wrong with my phone. Can you type it in, possibly? Or the gist of it?
See if I can type it in. Can you hear me now at all?
Apologies.
Okay, let's see if I can put it in the chat for you.
I don't know if I'm alone in this.
We can hear you for sure. What are the pain points for sure people understand DC statehood? And then a Republican Congress.
Okay. So what are the main points making sure people understand? Was it main points you said? Okay, yeah, so for some of the main points about DC statehood is to really try to make sure folks understand the different impacts of our lives that's impacted by statehood, whether it's our criminal justice system, whether it's our ability to pass our own laws, whether it's our ability to control our own resources like our National Guard. Some of the frequent criticism of DC statehood could be included. Folks are concerned about our capital status if we were to become a state. Or people are concerned about having a jail or a prison in DC, whether it's how our federal resources are impacted by being a state. And sometimes it's just about giving the facts. Right now, we are a donor city, meaning that we give more money to the federal government than we receive. And if we have a vote in Congress, maybe we'll be able to get more resources from the legislation, because in Congress, a vote is like currency. You vote for one thing, they'll vote for something for us. And right now, being on the outside, we're able to get certain things that other people are able to get. For example, in the CARES Act, during the pandemic, because we were a territory, we received half of the money to fight COVID compared to our neighbors who live in states. So just our ability to get more from the government and to live the lives we want to live and make our own rules and have final say over those rules is the reason why I've talked to people in the district about statehood. Now, outside of statehood, it's not about how to explain what's right for us in DC. It's really about how to make sure that folks who are listed would understand what they benefit from getting two representatives two senators and a voting representative from the district. Whether it's passing the Equality Act or passing a PRO Act protecting organized labor, is really my job to make sure people understand that they get something too, whether they live in DC or not, from allowing DC to become the 51st state.
I'm not sure if you could hear us anymore, but I will not make you suffer through trying to figure out how we can communicate on this. So thank you so much for your time. Or commissioners, are there any other questions? If so, we can try to put it into the comments or the chat function.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Are you with us?
I can hear you, but I'm putting it in my ear because I can't, for some reason, your microphone is not working so loud on my phone.
No problem. Commissioners, any other questions?
Gotcha.
No.
All right. Well, Doctor, thank you so much for your time this evening. We really appreciate it. And thank you for all of your hard work. We look forward to hearing more about what you're up to and how you're promoting DC statehood. It's very important to us, and 1E in particular has been really fighting hard and trying to get involved. There are a number of things that the Public Safety Committee has been doing and trying to bring awareness to the fact that the district attorney is derelict in his job, things of that nature. And I believe that that's something that would be in your orbit. So maybe we can discuss further ways that we can work together. But you got a very large task ahead of you. Thank you for all of your work, and see you out there.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
All right. With that, I will bring back the agenda. All right, can you guys see
Yes.
my screen? Great. All right, well, now we will move on to commissioners. Commissioners, any announcements? If so, please raise your hand. All righty. I have a quick one. I have been in touch with the developers of 3 of the properties that are right next to my building, that are in my SMD, and unfortunately they're a bit delayed. I know there are a couple of people who are either in my district or adjacent who are on the call today, so I will just share that the 2 buildings that are directly north on W Street and 8th, those buildings have been pushed back to potentially having groundbreaking in September. We will have a community forum to just learn about the construction plan and all of that right now, tentatively in August. And Bond Reco, which was supposed to break ground at the end of this year in Q4 of 2024, has been pushed back about a year. And so now they are anticipating permitting to be done by the fall of 2025. It's unfortunate. We're very excited about those coming online and getting that kind of underway. So I've been trying to offer my support in any way that we can be to break down any barriers and any bureaucracy, things of that nature. But we'll keep making sure that things kind of move along. But that's just a quick update. All right, I will go to, I'm sorry, any other commissioners? No?
You know what, Chairman, thank you. It's not really an announcement because the event just happened already, but I just wanted to share with community members. We know that about the issues happening with Bruce Monroe Park related to drug use and just homelessness in general, people kind of camping out there during the times when the park is open. So District Bridges, the Lord Georgia Avenue Main Streets program today held a community day from noon to 4. They did meal distribution, outreach for support services, whether it's housing, support, case management, HIV screenings, hygiene and haircuts. That was all happening today. So thank you, District Bridges, for all you do and for having the event today.
Great, thank you. All right, well, we can now move to the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services, otherwise known as MOCRS. I do not see Portia on the line. So let's move to Nicole with Councilmember Nadeau's office. Hey, Nicole, how are you?
Hey, how are you all?
Doing well, good to see you. The floor is yours.
Wonderful, thank you. I'll run through these updates pretty quick here. So legislation out of our office recently, we introduced a bill regarding utility shutoffs to prohibit companies from disconnecting electricity and heat for vulnerable residents during the summer and winter months. Currently, the shutoff restrictions are tied to the temperature outside. So we're expanding, trying to expand that protection to cover all of the summer and winter months. If it's 94 instead of 95, people are still struggling. So really important for everyone, but especially residents with children, seniors, people with disabilities, low-income families. So we're excited about the possibility of that moving forward. In our committee, we held a hearing today to examine the independent review of the investigation into the sexual harassment allegations against the mayor's former chief of staff and deputy mayor for planning and economic development. It was extremely informative. We have pending legislation to change some of the policies in the executive going forward to better protect district employees that may experience sexual harassment in the future. So a lot of learnings that will come out of that to refine that legislation. I want to briefly touch on public safety. First, traffic safety is public safety. There is a new DPW parking enforcement pilot folks might have heard about in the news. It's already resulted in the towing of 70 vehicles with nearly $600,000 in unpaid tickets and the booting of another 700 with $1.5 million in unpaid fines. We helped fund additional booting and towing positions in last year's budget, and really looking forward to DPW continuing to prioritize these really egregious offenders and get them off of our streets. MPD is also doing a lot more to address package theft. The council member met with the U.S. Postal Inspector earlier this month to talk about how they're coordinating their efforts. So that's exciting. And finally, on the budget front, the budget fully funds the police chief's request for additional officers. That's going to be 200 recruits, 40 cadets, and 20 senior law enforcement officers. We also added funds from our committee for additional mobile police cameras for 3D and 4D and to support positions in the crime lab. And then finally, really quickly, there is a lot going on in the budget, but a few really quick highlights from our committee. We restored and added positions and funding for the Office of Administrative Hearings. We extended the standalone public restroom pilot, created a new position in the Office of Contracting and Procurement to give council a more insight into what's going on over there, and funded a number of items in the LGBTQ Affairs Office, including doubling the council's contribution to the LGBTQ Center that's near Howard University. So I will stop there because I could keep going with lots of updates from us, but happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions? I have a quick budget question. I was talking to David, and the mayor's original budget had included 1.2 million for a upgrading of the children's park or playground that's in Casey Lewis. And in the final version, David was mentioning that it was still in there, but it had been kind of pooled with a large group of funding, and it was difficult to parse out that funding was dedicated. And I know that your office had been working with the budget office to try and make it clear what those line items were. Do you know what the final outcome was on that?
I don't, but I will find out.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Commissioners, any other questions? I guess I have one more question. The pilot program that you mentioned with DPW, that's fantastic to hear. I know that Commissioner Gallagher has been a huge advocate for some of the issues around enforcement of people who may have illegal plates and things of that nature. Quick question. I know that your office had introduced legislation a couple of months ago. I think there was like 3 bills that collectively were addressing some of those kind of issues. Was this pilot program a direct result of that legislation?
It wasn't. This was just something that DPW did, thanks to a lot of discussions about prioritizing these scofflaw vehicles. The big piece of legislation is our fake tags bill. That's still pending. We're still working that through the process. But that's another one that we're really trying to close that loophole because there's just kind of a gap in the law with DPW's ability to go after those cars. So if we can get that through, that's gonna even shoot up the amount of those scofflaw vehicles we can get off the road. So we're still working on that. We'll keep you guys updated.
Awesome. And then just for awareness, if there is anybody in the community that does know or wants to report something and draw attention for members of this pilot program, is there like a number to call, or how do you engage with the enforcement arm in this pilot to try and draw attention to areas that we know may be an issue?
That's a great question. So I think 311 is still going to be your best bet on parking enforcement to flag those vehicles for DPW. And if you are seeing like a really consistent problem in your neighborhood, like please flag it for our office as well. If you're seeing kind of the same cars that you know have lots of tickets racked up, that's always parked on your block. Put in the 311 request, but flag it for us too, because then we can work with DPW's parking enforcement team to make sure they're making the rounds to those blocks that see those cars over and over.
Awesome. I did see a hand go up. Did somebody have a question? No? Okay. All right, Nicole. I'll actually turn it over really quickly to members of the audience. Are there any questions for the council member's office? Please feel free to raise your hand. We do have somebody from the audience, Seb's phone.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear us?
Sebastian is my name.
Oh,
So,
Sebastian.
it would be great for the city to work on the 311 app. It's not the greatest thing, and it takes a lot of time to put in tickets. And as much as I would love to spend my entire day putting in tickets, I just don't have the time. So, one thing I requested from Councilmember Nadeau was, especially with dumping of trash, having a checkbox for food waste, so that those items could be prioritized and removed in a few days to avoid rats diving into it and feeding the rat population. And I don't know, 4 months after I brought it up, and I brought it up to the city, nothing has been done. So it seems like it'd be an easy fix, and really something that we need to get done so that we can deal with the rats, because I kill about 100 rats a year on my property.
Oh
and
gosh.
those are not nesting on my property.
Yeah. That's a great idea. I love that. I'll share that with our contacts over at OUC and see if that's something that they can get done. But sounds like a great idea to me. So we'll pass that along for sure and follow up with them.
And if you have further questions, Councilmember Nandone has all my information because I talk to her all the time.
Okay, great. Chair Footer, is it okay if I put my contact info in the chat for folks?
That'd be great.
Awesome.
Please do. Right. If there are no other questions, and please, we'll keep you up here for a moment so you can put your chat or your contact information in the chat. But Nicole, great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you all for having me. And next month, you'll be back in the very capable hands of Estelle.
Thank you. And let's keep Nicole up for just a moment so she can just put her, oh, there we go. Perfect. All right. Thank you, Nicole. Have a great evening.
Well, you as well.
All right. We will move on to members of the audience. Are there any members of the audience that would like to make an announcement during our community announcement and presentations? If so, please raise your hand. All right, seeing none, we'll move on to official business. So our official business has been organized into our 3 standing committees. The committee chairs will begin by providing a brief update on their committee's activities over the past month. Then we'll walk through each item of business, which we don't have any on the agenda this evening. So we will just be focusing on committee updates. So we'll start with Transportation and Public Space Committee, and Commissioner Jacobson is not with us this evening. I was not able to, the Transportation Committee, I believe, was canceled actually this month. So there is no update. So I guess the only update that we have for tonight is that the next meeting will be, I believe they actually changed. It's not going to be on July 3rd. It's going to be on July 2nd. And they did that in respect of the holiday and trying to coordinate what's best with the other members of the committee. So the next meeting for Transportation Public Space Committee will be on July 2nd. Moving on to Zoning and Economic Development, Commissioner Ray.
Thank you, Chairman. We didn't have a meeting this month. We haven't had any cases, although we will have a case this month. So do check. So I will make the plug for July 10th at 7 o'clock. We'll have the agenda up about a week before, and there will be a case. I believe it will be in Commissioner Brown's SMD. However, we did have 2 hearings that were held on 723 Morton Street. This was a case that the ANC supported in order to do an infill development in a currently vacant lot. And despite the Office of Planning's best efforts to thwart us, the BZA agreed and gave them permission to go ahead and to do that project. It was a bit of a struggle, but thankfully it came out the same way we saw it, and the BZA agreed. So if you like the idea of zoning and liquor licenses, feel free to attend our meetings. We try to hold them once a month at the second Wednesday of every month. And we do have community members that are involved. So if you have an interest, we'd love to have you participate. Thank you. That's it.
Great. Thank you. The one thing I do want to mention for zoning and economic development, I took a tour, of the proposed temporary development that's going to go in at CVS. And it's going to be a bit of an event space with a focus on art. And the reason that it's temporary is that Howard University owns that CVS, which is at the corner of 7th and Florida. And is no longer a CVS, and the long-term goal is to try and develop it, but there are a lot of complications with that, with a train being right underneath it. Make a long story short, there were some initial questions that I had and commissioners from 1B had around just noise. And so we took a tour of what some of the example properties of what this organization has done in the past. They took us to something called Sandlot. If you're not familiar, there are a couple of them throughout the city. It's going to be an abbreviated version of that. Sandlots are a little bit more of like a bar, but this is going to be a little bit more of like an event space. Make a long story short, which is too late, it was a great opportunity to hear directly from the owner and developer of what their mission is and how it's going to serve the community, and really excited about it. There's still some questions that I know 1B has around just noise. And the developer / owner is extremely accommodating, and I'm sure we'll be able to mitigate any kind of concerns that they may express. But looking forward to that coming. The target for that actually coming online is the fall, when students come back. They're in the process of fundraising right now. I believe that they're trying to raise about $250,000 in order to transform the space, and looking forward to that coming online soon. All right, moving on to Public Safety and Engagement Committee, Commissioner Newland.
Thank you, Chair Footer. We did meet briefly this month. The discussion was mostly around some activity that one of our committee members is leading in terms of the engagement piece of our committee, and trying to get some neighborhood cleanups going. So I can just share that this committee member has been working with Georgia Avenue Thrive and District Bridges, where they're hosting the usual neighborhood cleanup the first Saturday of every month. And it is through the Thrive, and then we're trying to add a second cleanup every month, so maybe the third Saturday of the month, and that would be kind of co-hosted between the ANC and these different community organizations. So don't have any, unfortunately, like final details to share today, but I will make sure that the commission is updated as this kind of moves forward, and can share those out as they're firmed up. That was the majority of our discussion. And our next Public Safety and Engagement Committee meeting is going to be Monday, July 8th at 7 p.m. That's all I have. Back to you.
Commissioner Newland, I promise to have that resolution for your next meeting. I'm so sorry for the delay.
No worries.
Thank you for your patience. All right. Is there any other business before the commission? All right. Hearing none, I will now accept a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion with unanimous consent that we adjourn the meeting.
Is there any dissent? All right. Hearing none. Motion is approved and we are adjourned. Just very quickly, the next general meeting of ANC 1E will be on Wednesday, July 24th. Announcements and other information about ANC 1E is available on our website, which is anc1e.org. Please feel free to contact any commissioner with any questions. And with that, I appreciate your time this evening and thank you very much.